Try again, Tiny. Tiny's favorite flower is hidden in these pages. How many can you find? This story is all about Tiny, the little Triceratops who knows how to have fun. Tiny loves dancing, singing, and telling jokes. So when it's time for her very important dino test, it's hard for her to take it seriously. Will Tiny have to change her fun-loving ways to fit in with the rest of the Triceratops herd? Before the dino friends were busy with one of their favorite activities, spying on Giganto. Rocky stood on Mazu, who stood on Bill, who stood on Tiny. She might be the smallest, but Tiny was one strong dinosaur. Suddenly, the Tower of Dinos began to wobble dangerously. Was it an earthquake, or worse, a ground wobbler? No, it was Tiny, performing some of her favorite activities, singing and dancing. Hey, careful down there. Bill must be moving. It's not me, it's Tiny. Oh, life is fun as tough when you're a Triceratops. This is not the time to mess around, Tiny. Giganto will hear us, Mazu hissed. Sure enough, a mighty dinosaur took a giant stomp toward him, and the shaking tower tumbled to the ground. Hey, Trey. There you are, sis. The friends landed in a heap right in front of Tiny's big brother, Trey. Trey chuckled as he helped the four little dinos to their feet. I'm glad I bumped into you, sis. I've been looking all over Cretaceous for you. Tiny explained that they had been hiding from Giganto. Trey looked at Tiny. You're a Triceratops. You don't need to hide from anyone, he told her. We Triceratops are a brave and strong herd of warriors. Tiny wasn't so sure. I'm actually a better dancer than a warrior, she said. She did a little dance to show her brother what she could do. Trey just laughed. Look at my awesome moves. It was time for Trey to teach Tiny all the skills that she needed to learn. We need to prepare for your Triceratops trial, he said. Every Triceratops has to complete a special test to prove its strength to the herd, said Trey. First, the dead tree tackle. Trey used his powerful horns to uproot a big old tree. It fell to the ground with a crash. How about you tackle the tree and invent eye decorator, suggested Tiny. Let's make it look pretty. Tiny loved to draw and decorate almost as much as she loved dancing. Very funny, sis, replied Trey. But for once, Tiny wasn't joking. Next, we do a stomps, said Trey. He jumped up and landed with a mighty thump that sent the smaller dinosaurs flying into the air. They all giggled as they bounced up and down. Then it was Tiny's turn. She tried to jump just like Trey had showed her. But it wasn't long before Tiny had turned the moves into a breakdance. Her friends cheered as she hopped, bobbed, and swung her tail before finishing with a head spin. Trey was not impressed. Next, it was time for the Triceratops tug. Grab my horn and see if you can get me to budge, Trey instructed Tiny. Trey was so big and heavy. Tiny had an idea. She dumped on Trey's back and began to sing, but Trey stopped her before she could finish. Tiny did want to make the trial seriously, but she couldn't stop turning it into something fun. Tree, tackle, and toss, then tug and stomp. The Triceratops trial is what a run. Triceratops do not do fun. Triceratops are strong. We like to push big things around, and we are very serious about it. Trey said. If you don't pass the trial, you have to spend more time with the herd learning the Triceratops way, Trey warned his sister. That means less time with your friends. Now Tiny was nervous. Her friends were more important to her than anything. More time with the herd? Then it was time for Trey to teach Tiny the tree toss. But instead of throwing the tree, Tiny wedged one end under Trey's foot and used it as a catapult to fling herself into the air. Look who's flying now, Tiny shouted, as she sailed through the air and then landed in front of her brother. That's enough, Trey said. If you don't get serious, you'll never pass the Triceratops trial. Sorry, Trey, said Tiny. I do want to be a good Triceratops, but I like doing things my own way. There's only one way to do things the right way. Suddenly there was a loud roar behind them. Gigantosaurus. All the commotion had disturbed Giganto, and he did not look happy. He came thundering towards the dinosaurs. Run! Tiny, Rocky, Mazo, and Bill raced through the jungle until Giganto's stomps were well behind them. They were safe, but they lost Trey. They retraced their steps and found him stuck in quicksand, and he was sinking. It looks like the swamp really likes me. Don't worry, we'll get you out. Tiny tried to tug Trey out, but it was no use. Then she had another idea. Tiny tackled the tree to the ground and tossed it next to her brother. Nicely done, little sis. The four little dinosaurs slid the tree trunk underneath Trey and jumped onto one end. Trey was catapulted out of the quicksand. It worked just like the tree catapult that Tiny made earlier. Looks like you learned a thing or two after all, said Trey. At last, he was back on solid ground. You did it, he smiled at Tiny, and you did it your way. Can you get off this now? Later that day, Trey gathered the herd together. It was time to watch Tiny's Triceratops trial. They waited silently for it to begin. Welcome, fellow Triceratops warriors. My sister Tiny is one of the bravest in all of Cretaceous, Trey said proudly. She's clever enough to get me out of quicksand, and she performs her trial tasks like no one else. Trey turned to his sister, who was looking anxious. He wished her luck, but he knew she didn't really need it. You show them, sis. Tiny took a deep breath and stepped out in front of her. It was showtime. Would all her practice pay off? First, Tiny fiercely tackled and tossed the tree. But she showed her strength in stomping and tugging. Of course, she completed each task in her own special Tiny way. When she finished, there was a long pause before the Triceratops herd began to stomp bare feet in approval. Tiny had passed. There was only one way to celebrate, with a dance, of course. And this time even Trey joined her. Let's dance. That was awesome. That was how Tiny learned that she didn't have to change to get the approval of her herd. She proved that being true to yourself is the best way to be. Tiny even found that she can be serious sometimes, serious about having fun, that is. What does a Triceratops sit on? It's Tricerabata. And that was Gigantosaurus, Try Again Tiny, based on the book by Johnny Dottle.